call on, thank you, George, for starting the recording. So I will call on people, starting with Donna Field, to do a brief introduction.
Hello, here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, up north of all y'all, and so glad to be here today.
Thank you, Donna. Now, Bernadine Williams, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Bernadine Williams in Houston, Texas. Nice to be here with y'all.
Well, thank you, Bernadine. We have opened up our meeting today to guests from other organizations, including the Black Alliance for Peace. Most of us are actually members of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Donna Field is a member in the Cape Cod branch in Massachusetts, and I'm a member in the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in Columbus, Georgia. So let me call on Shantae McLaughlin to introduce herself.
It's really noisy where I am. I'm at my 5-year-old friend's birthday party, but I'm Shantae McLaughlin, the lead organizer for the Atlanta Metro Branch of Will. And I'm happy to be on this call today. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Shantae. You can mute yourself, Shantae. I forgot what you told me about the birthday party. So Shantae McLaughlin, as she said, is an organizer with the Metro Atlanta branch of Will. Now, if we could go for Sheila Harper.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see me, but hello, I'm from Philadelphia, and I just got soaked and wet coming from the garden because it poured raining, but I had a good harvest. So
Well,
I'm glad to be here. This is an important meeting. I wanted to make certain that I was an active participant, but I'm in the car driving now. So hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Sheila. Sheila is a WILF member in the Greater Philadelphia branch. So Alma Williams, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Alma Williams. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Thank you. Rita Gonzalez.
Sorry about that. Rita Gonzalez in the was in the Triad area. Now I'm in Ensenada, Mexico, but I still have connections there. So.
Well, we're so glad to have you from Mexico, Rita. I hope you'll connect with the Mexico section first chance you get.
Yeah, we'll be doing that this month in, October, I should say.
Great. So Joja, introduce yourself.
Hi, Joja, I use that, my full name is Joy James. I'm in New York area, and I organize with progressive academics.
Well, thank you, sister. We're trying to start a branch in the New York City area, so we'll talk more about that later. Tongo, is it Tongo Eisen Martin?
Yeah, that's it. Good to be with y'all. Tongo from the Bay Area chapter of Black Alliance for Peace.
Wonderful. Nami, introduce yourself.
Peace, everyone. My name's Nomi, short for Naomi. Pronouns are they, them, Nomi, and I'm in the Lumbee area. I'm a farmer. I heard somebody else talk about their harvest. So yeah, it's nice to be in this space with you all.
So when you say you're in the Lumbee area, you mean North Carolina?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm in shared Lumbee and Nottoway land, and that is in South West Virginia.
Okay, thank you. And now if we could hear from Tomiko. She's one of our guest speakers at the meeting today. Tomiko.
Peace and blessings. My name is Tamako Shai. I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I'm the founding director of Aging People in Prison Human Rights Campaign. It's a national human rights organization. Thank you.
Okay. And Deidre Whittlesey, my comrade here in Columbus. Please introduce yourself, Deidre.
I really don't have a voice, but I'm Deidre Whittlesey, and I'm part of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch here in Columbus, Georgia.
Wow, a serious case of laryngitis. I'm sorry to hear it. Deidre Whittlesey is with the Fannie Lou Hamer branch here in Columbus, Georgia. And I believe I've called on everyone except George Friday and Beatrice. So George, if you could introduce yourself, and then Stacy could introduce herself, who's there with you, and then we'll call on Beatrice.
Hi, George Friday, the Southern Piedmont branch in North Carolina. And Deirdre, much love to you for your throat. I had a good time last time I lost my voice to that extent. Great to be here.
And Stacy. Is Stacy there with you, George?
Can you hear me? There.
We can't hear you, Stacy.
I'm Stacy Friday.
Stacy Friday, who is a member with George Friday and a sister to George Friday, and they're in the Southern Piedmont branch in the Charlotte area of North Carolina. And we have our eminent person with us, Beatrice Schultes from Costa Rica, who is the alternate regional representative of the Americas of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. So since I've said all of that, Beatrice, please tell us something more that you want us to know about you.
Yes, hello to everyone. I'm also recently, I was elected as president of the Costa Rica section. And we are very active here on the Caribbean side now to strengthen our branch on the Caribbean side, which is basically indigenous and Afro-descendant territory. We just finished celebrating the months of for the Afro-descendant culture, which is something new, and it passed the law, and now we have a month per year to celebrate the Afro-descendant culture. But this is what is happening around here now. I'm happy to hear about you all and glad to see you. Glad to see you all.
Well, we're glad to have you since we have very important wealth and international items on the agenda. So if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. George, could you quickly put up the agenda so that everyone can see what we're talking about today? So we just did our welcome and quick update. When we came together, we developed what we call our basis of political agreement, and which is the BOPA, and we update it at every meeting. So that's first on the agenda now, and then we'll hear from our guest speakers. We asked Tomiko to speak about aging prisoners, including aging political prisoners. And so she'll have 7 minutes to speak. And I'm not sure who will represent BAP, because I know there are several BAP members in the meeting, but we need someone to tell us about getting AFRICOM out of Africa. And that person will have 7 minutes. But George, would you put up the BOPA, please? Okay. It looks like I'm going to do this from my phone the whole time. So George, could you read our basis of political agreement and kind of explain to people where we are with that.
Certainly. During the month that the Black Liberation Caucus was founded in May of 2021, we together came up with our basis of political agreement. We will make decisions by consensus. We'll address questions and concerns and move forward when everyone has a sense of readiness to move forward. We have a steering committee of 2 representatives of African descent from each branch, where there are 2 representatives available, and we meet monthly, the last Sunday of every month. These are our agreed upon areas of work. Those in red are proposed. These areas of work are reparations, free all political prisoners, criminal justice reform, end mass incarceration, ending voter suppression, free Palestine solidarity. You see here we have Black Palestinian solidarity added today to consider. Anti-racist transformation of WILF US, solidarity with other oppressed peoples of color, universal health care for all, Medicare for all, immigration justice, and BIPOC women's reproductive health. Also added here in red is US out of Africa.
Well, George, it should be US AFRICOM out of Africa. So if you could correct that, because the US Africa Command is what is wreaking havoc in Africa. So we're trying to get the US Africa Command out of Africa. Africa, spelled uppercase A, and then the other letters should not be uppercase. So Africa should not be all cap. US AFRICOM out of Africa. That's what we're going to consider today. We may have to work to do a final consensus at the October meeting. But if we can reach consensus today, that would be great. I see that, does anyone have any questions about our basis of political agreement? Or do any BLC members, which are members of WILF, who are in the Black Liberation Caucus, do you have anything to add or any questions about the proposed updates to the BOPA? Well, hearing none, we will hear from Tomiko, who will speak for 7 minutes. And George will give you the 2-minute warning when you've been talking for 5 minutes, Tomiko. So can we tell us about the Aging Political Prisoners group? I see you put some things in the chat as well. So please inform us.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm honored, humbled to be here. Put a bit of our organization, Aging People in Prison, Human Rights Campaign, and also a little bit of our recent and current work that we have coming up. I started Aging People in Prison, Human Rights Campaign about 4 or 5 years ago. And we worked directly to get elderly people out of prison, mostly of African descent, who did 30, 40, 50, longest is 64 years in prison. We also do include, we recognize our political prisoners who are very important. We believe that that was the stage that preceded what we now call today mass incarceration. We call it generational incarceration. So we see the incarceration, not just the containment of Black power, but also we look at incarceration as a decimation, destruction of the Black family and reorientation of it. We have, I met you, Sister Teresa Alameen, this past week at a meeting for Dr. Matula Shakur. Also, they mentioned Momia Abdul-Jabbar and also Imam Jamil Alameen, FKA H. Rap Brown. They've been working very diligently on these campaigns, including all 3 of these folks, with Momia They are working very hard in the Pennsylvania area. Since Russell Maroon Schultz died, they've been able to pull together their forces collectively and really pushing to get Mumia out. The MOVE members are all out. Some have passed. Of course, Maroon Schultz was out. He passed. And now there's a really big push to get Mumia out. Also, we know with Jamal Amin, H. Rap Brown, he's in Georgia, along with also, well, he's in Arizona, originally rested in Georgia, but also Kamal Siddiqui. So they have their meetings, I believe, every Thursday, and they also are including Imam Jamal Amin, aka H. Rap Brown, in their efforts to really push. Of course, all of them right now, the folks I mentioned are very ill, they're sick, and they're pushing to get them out. Recently, they did something with Leonard Peltier, pushing for his release. But it's interesting that organizations, recently it was a group of organizations, they submitted a formal complaint. It's called a complaint to the United Nations. It's called Death by Incarceration, charging the United States with human rights violation, that folks are incarcerated too long, and basically this is death by incarceration. This is very important, as one of our liberation fighters, Malcolm X, Shabazz, told us about 70 years ago that we should be taking our complaints, our issues at the international human rights level, which would be the United Nations. So this group did this within the last few weeks. That's very important. That is a continuation that's coming from the Mandela Tribunal that took place last year in New York, which charged the United States with several human rights violations. And again, the human rights violation that was charged by W.E.B. Du Bois, genocide. This is what all of this is tantamount to, genocide, particularly people of African descent in the U.S. I think that's a little bit. And of course, if you all look on Jericho Movement, we have several of our political prisoners that are still incarcerated. They're hitting the 50-year mark. At this point, I put in there an event we're having, Forum in California. Those are focusing on the folks in California who are doing half a century. One of those is Rochelle McGee. He's included in that. And most of that time they've done in solitary confinement. So it's a parallel movement that's also going on, pushing about the solitary confinement to get those released, but really to stop this practice within the United States. So it's some things going on. It's not a lot of us in the prison movement as it used to be, from what the elders told me, have taught me some decades ago, but we're still pushing to get our folks, our brothers and sisters out of the prisons. Thank you. If anybody had any questions or anything or comments to me.
Thank you, Tamiko.
Okay.
Your volume went out a little bit for a minute.
Okay.
But I think everybody heard the gist of it. But where are you located, Tamiko, in what city?
We're local, we're national. So if you look on the website, we have chapters.
No, sister. I'm asking, where do you live?
Oh, I live in the Maryland area, Baltimore, DMV.
Oh, okay, great. Because the Women's International League has a branch in the DMV, and I don't think there's anyone present on the call from the DMV branch, but I do want to be able to connect you because freeing political prisoners is one of our key areas of work, and we want to be able to work with you all over the long haul. Could you mention about the event Bright, the event that you have coming up, which I registered for? Could you tell us?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sister. We have, and that's our Philadelphia chapter. They're doing a forum. It's actually a first three-part series. This first one is mass incarceration's impact on women. So not just women coming out of prison, but mothers, daughters, sisters, cousins who have people in their family who have been incarcerated, just looking at what's been the impact on Black women, women of African descent, on just how that is made an impact on them and also their family communities. Another one we have coming up, which I'll be doing a series on as a cultural anthropologist, is the mass incarceration of Black fathers and how this has led to a type of intrafamilial violence within the communities and within homes. Both of these are showing the separation that has occurred and how incarceration is used as a tool to disperse Black power and to keep the family, Black family of African descent divided. So those are a couple of the things that are coming up soon.
Well, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Tamiko? Well, hearing none, Donna is clapping. So, great, thank you, Tamiko.
Thank you. Greetings, Tamika. Hi, greetings from Philadelphia. This is Sheila. Quick
hi.
question.
Yes,
Hi.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I am interested in finding out the issue about telephone $1 a minute charges. I signed a petition.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm like, really? I mean, like, talk to your family, $1 a minute?
Most
Is that
definitely.
true? And is that something that you are also pushing, against? I mean, that's outrageous money
Yeah,
for
well,
poor people.
Yeah, well, what ACT does, we kind of work as a law firm. We directly work to get people out. That's our main thing. We get our elderly people out. But what you're talking about is the economic side of incarceration under white supremacy, right?
Yes,
And so
yes.
you have all these folks, these vendors feeding from the trough, and they're getting money. And so you have those in poverty. And if you have those incarcerated, then some people spend $200, $300, $400 easy a month just on phone calls. And so you
Talking to
have
their family.
so you have the continued economic genocide of Black bodies 400 years later still being used. And so what we're saying is that the whole thing, incarceration, the prison industrial complex, has to be dismantled. And those Black bodies have got to come out of there. So basically, those are white supremacists. They need to find new ways to make money, their economy, they need to get new jobs. And so it's going to take a collective effort because they're not going to give this up, the type of money that's been made,
Right.
the wealth that's been generated. So it's good. I appreciate y'all having me come in and speak. And I appreciate that's part of y'all platforms. And really, it has to be dismantled. It has to be done with the slavery that is continued.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tamika, and good luck on your many blessings on your mission.
Thank you, sister. I'll
Because-
take that, receive that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is there someone here to speak from BAP about the October days of action to get AFRICOM out of Africa? Is there anyone here who can speak on that BAP initiative?
Can you give us some background on that?
Sheila.
Yes.
Is that you asking?
Yes, it is.
Sheila, please mute yourself. You facilitated last month's meeting.
No, I was just asking,
yeah, but Sheila, I'm facilitating the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So if you could just mute yourself,
Okay.
because there's a brother who introduced himself as being with BAP, I believe in the Bay Area or California. Is he still with us?
I am. I'm just woefully unqualified for this rundown, but I can say that basically there's a call out for a month of action against AFRICOM, which consists of basically for an activity for every week of the month. For the first week, the focus is a webinar that we're having. The second week is that we're asking people to facilitate a teach-in, and we have materials that you can use. The third week is to organize a mass action, such as banner drops or whatever your kind of the prerogative of your praxis is. And then the fourth is a kind of a social media blitz. And I can drop in the chat the kind of the toolkit page that we have. But I apologize. I didn't know I was supposed to do a presentation. So that's all. That's kind of like what I got as someone with marching orders. So,
Well, dear brother, that was very good. We had sent an invitation to Ajamu, Baraka, Margaret Kimberly, and Rose Brewer, who we know are quite knowledgeable about getting AFRICOM out of Africa. But what I will tell you and the other members of BAP who are here, who are not part of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom yet, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom held a webinar on December 4th of 2020, and there were 5 speakers, all women of African descent, and there were women from sections of our organization in Nigeria, Cameroon, the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ghana, I believe, as well as Margaret Kimberly, who spoke for BAP. So we're committed to getting AFRICOM out of Africa, and we're thinking about adding that to our BOPA. And I think we will get more information about the actual days of action, which start on October 1. So does anyone have any questions? Could you say your name again, dear brother?
Tongo as in one.
Oh, okay, great. So Brother Tongo, you did a great job because I realized I was putting you on the spot, but that's because Ajamu, Rose, or Margaret were not here, and we didn't want to leave this agenda area without hearing about getting AFRICOM out of Africa. So any questions? Go ahead, George.
I just want to let folks know I'm putting in the chat the link to register for that kickoff webinar that Tongo mentioned.
And what BAP is asking is for everyone to register, to endorse the days of action. So the other thing I didn't mention is that I'm the founder and board chair of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. George is a lifetime member of the organization, and there are others here who have been consistently a part of the organization and are members. And I do see that Mary White joined us, and she did not get a chance to introduce herself, and she is a member of the Southern Anti-Racism Network, and also a member of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in the Triangle of North Carolina. So I've said quite a bit about who you are, Mary White. So could you give us a further introduction? We're glad you were able to join us. Mary, you're still muted. Are you there, Mary? Well, I did tell everyone who Mary White is. She joined us after the introductions. So George, what's next on the agenda, George? George, I believe it's the BLC affiliation.
It's, we're at the strategy chart.
Well, was BLC affiliation on the agenda? Where is it on the
Yes,
agenda?
ma'am, it's after the strategy chart.
Oh, okay. Well, please put up the strategy chart, George.
Mhm.
The Black Liberation Caucus began a 3-year strategic plan in January of this year. And our plan is to bring in 300 new members into the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom by the end of the UN decade, which is December 31st, 2024. And as some of you, I hope know, the UN decade for people of African descent began on January 1 of 2015, and it will end on December 31st of 2024. So over 7 years have passed, and we're right at about 27 months remaining on the UN decade. And part of the work that we're doing in WILF is starting to get reparations ordinances passed in cities where there are branches of the organization around the United States. But our 3-year strategy has 2 prongs. One, recruitment, increase the number of members, and with a concentration on Black, Indigenous, people of color members, because WILF is 107 years old, friends and comrades, but throughout its history, it has not had significant numbers of women of color. And Fannie Lou Hamer, who was a member, was treated kind of differently because she was a sharecropper and she didn't have a college degree. So there was a bit of white supremacy going on inside of the organizations, inside of WILF, I should say, in its 107-year history, which is why we have, as part of our commitments, the anti-racist transformation of WILF. So in addition to signing up new members, we are also planning the anti-racist transformation of WILF, which we call the ART, Anti-Racism Transformation, ART, the ART. And George Friday is taking primary responsibility for 2023, which is our midterm period. Our first 6 months, we set a goal to recruit 50 members. We recruited over 80 members throughout the organization from January to June of this year. We started several branches in the South. And so we're getting ready to start a 5th branch at Winthrop University, where I spoke this past week on International Peace Day. And so there are quite a few women there who are going to form a branch. It only takes 10 members per city to form a branch. And we have branches in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, in the Triangle area, in the Triad area, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, and in the Southern Piedmont area, which is Charlotte and Gastonia, and in that area, and then Columbus, where I am, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Metro Atlanta. These are the branches in the South, and we're getting ready to start the branch at Winthrop in Rock Hill, South Carolina soon. So we're in an organize the South mode. But there are also branches in Philadelphia where Sheila Harper is a member in the Greater Philadelphia branch, and Donna is a member in the Cape Cod branch. And I'm not sure what other branches are represented here. George, do you know if there are any other branches represented here?
I don't.
Well,
I'll look at the list and we'll report.
well, that's okay. Because George, if you could read the goals for the midterm that are on the chart.
Yes, our goals for July of 2022, when this began, till June of 2023, is to have 150 new members in the 5 regions: Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, and Midwest. We want reparation ordinances in 10 branch cities. And we want to have had 10 branches participate in ART, the anti-racism transformation.
And that's supposed to happen over a period of 1 year, from July 1 to June 30th. July 1 of this year, which we're deep into, because it's September now, and then by June of 2023, next year, to have accomplished these goals. Well, we're moving a little slow, George, on the anti-racism transformation work. But just to go over the other headings, George, if you could just quickly read across the other headings without reading everything that's in them.
The allies and anti-racism transformation partners, branches and individual allies there. Resources, human resources, publications and videos. That's for the anti-racism transformation more than anything else. Activities and strategic objectives.
Yes, we have quite a few activities. And one of the activities that we need to add, George, is the AFRICOM Days of Action for this year, which are October. And so we update the strategy chart generally once a month at these meetings. And George, don't try to deal with that now.
Cool.
Because you're getting it mixed up, because the Congressional Black Caucus event starts on September 28th in a few days. So the October AFRICOM would come after that, because that will be from October 1 until October 31st. But don't worry about it. We can update it later, George. But I do want people to see. I see something there about Black Alliance for Peace that you had down there. But anyway, you get the picture to our guests who have never seen the chart before. And the final column is the work that we've done with our strategic objectives so far. We attended the International Wealth Conference in Congress in July, and that was very important because the whole Congress passed a dynamic resolution in support of the UN Decade for People of African Descent, which challenges all sections across the world, and there are 50 sections in countries all over the world, including in Sweden, in Germany, in Finland, in Canada, as well as the US section. And there are about 20 sections in Africa. So there are sections all over Africa. The most sections on a single continent are on the Africa continent. So That says enough about the chart. So are there any questions about our strategic plan for organizing? I see Rita's hand is up. Speak, Rita.
Yes, I had a question. It was I wrong, or I imagined it, but was did this conversation come up about a branch in Columbus, Ohio?
Well, Felina Farley is our BLC member who lives in Columbus, Ohio. And I think she did register for the meeting today, but she's not here. And we would love to be able to get a branch going in Columbus, Ohio. The only branch which is not functioning as a branch now was in Cleveland historically. When I first joined Wilf in 1988, I joined in the Cleveland branch. But right now, the Cleveland branch is down to 1 or 2 members. So it's barely a twig. It's not a branch anymore. So Columbus, Ohio with Felina Farley would be great. Why did you ask about it? Do you know someone in Columbus, Ohio?
Oh yes, that used to be my own stomping grounds.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's when I was with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and I was also with the cultural nationalist groups out there. And I still have contacts there. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to someone there yesterday, and I've got a few candidates in mind for that area. Some good friends of mine from way back. So I just wanted to check.
Well, we should definitely talk. Well, you know, my WhatsApp number is also my mobile number. And I know that a lot of people who talk to folks internationally use WhatsApp. So we should try to catch up since you're in Mexico, because I know people at Ohio State University who would be good candidates as well. So we should be able to pull 10 people together in Columbus, Ohio, and start a branch there. So let's talk. Let's talk. We can do a Zoom or we can do something. But Rita, let's talk.
Okay.
I'll email you after after our meeting today, so we can set up some time to talk. So a wonderful young student who just achieved her doctorate, and she's in, I think, African studies and gender studies, and she's really quite wonderful in her 20s. So it would be great to get her signed up as a member. And I think she could probably get some of her colleagues as well at the university. So I'm glad you brought it up. So another branch in the making, George. Are you hearing it?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, now there's somebody named Catherine Imes who I think just joined us. Catherine, could you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm Catherine Imes. I just got the email from the Black Alliance for Peace. Somebody had sent out the information, so I just decided to join.
Well, we're glad you did, because we're having a very open meeting today. This is a meeting of the Black Liberation Caucus of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is a 107-year-old organization, one of the few 100-year-old organizations in the United States, the NAACP being the oldest, founded in 1909, and WILF was founded a few years later in 1915. And it has been historically not very good with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we started the Black Liberation Caucus a little over a year ago, and we've been increasing the participation of Black, Indigenous women of color inside of WILF. And by the way, we have male members as well, Tango. So anyone is welcome to join. So George, if you could put the link using the HTTP thing inside of the chat for wilfus.org so that people can click on the link and see when they can join. All of us who are part of WILF on this call are already members in different branches. So you missed our introductions class, Catherine. So I'm glad you're here now. So George, help me move the agenda. So what is the next item, George?
WILF affiliates with International.
George, that doesn't sound anything like the agenda.
Does it?
No, it's a Black Liberation Caucus affiliation.
Oh, that's right.
You said WILF affiliates with.
I did. I was trying to put the thing in the chat at the same time. Some of us aren't multitaskers at all.
We have run into an issue with the national board of the U.S. section of WILF when we first established ourselves in May of 2021 as a Black Liberation Caucus. No one said a word. We even presented ourselves to the Triennial Congress of the U.S. section of WILF, and all we got was lots of welcome from most of the members of European descent. But very recently, the president of the U.S. section and the overwhelmingly white national board sent out a message saying that the Black Liberation Caucus is not really a part of the U.S. section of WILF. And it's really quite strange because we're all members in the U.S. section, but they're saying they have a problem with an all Black or all people of color entity inside of the organization. And it's a straight up white supremacist viewpoint. We have basically ignored it. But what we have talked about over the months since the drama has been going on is that we could affiliate as a group directly with the international WILF, and we would be the Black Liberation Caucus of the Americas, which is why we are so glad that Beatrice Schultz is here, because we've been talking with the staff people of the WILF International Secretariat about how we do that. And they have explained that we are eligible to do that. It's a decision that must take place within the international board, Beatrice. And so Sylvie Ndongo, who is the president of the whole WILF International, and of course, the president of the board, she is from Cameroon, and she's the second African president in succession. Her predecessor was Joy from Nigeria. And so the fact that the majority of sections, I think from a single continent, are from the continent of Africa. And to be attacked in this way in the UN Decade for People of African Descent, which is calling for recognition, justice, and development, it shows how out of touch the national board of the U.S. section is. But we are not deterred by it. So at our last meeting, we agreed that we would apply. And what President Sylvie wrote to me yesterday is to explaining that the national board is getting organized and that the meeting tomorrow is going to be about establishing the new advisory board. So I'm going to stop talking now. So Beatrice, hope I'm not putting you on the spot too much since you're our alternate regional rep for the Americas. Can you speak to the issue and our interests and tell us how we can make it happen?
Well, yes. I don't know if it will be on the agenda for tomorrow. I didn't see that yet, but I saw a message from the Secretariat, which was sent to us to look into it. So what I really believe is that all sections and branches around the world must be open to admit Black, white, colored people, I mean, even people of different social and economic backgrounds. And wealth as a whole is not yet there, not at all. And even I have my questions about Africa, I have to say, because I know Africa quite well. My daughter is half African. Because as you know, in Africa, you have a diversity, which is between tribes in each country and tribes and languages. And I'm not quite sure yet if all the sections are inclusive in this regard. So that was just a separate comment. But in the message I saw from Jenny, I saw that she was mentioning what is in the Constitution about associate members, and that of course our associate members don't have certain rights, like rights to vote, right to nominate candidates, or right to have members nominated, or so, which is actually the same that new groups which are being established in countries, they also don't have right to vote and right to nominate and right to have its members nominated in international office until they become a section and they approved by Congress to become a section. So that can I just
Beatrice, Beatrice, because we have a limit on time, we really want to focus in on the very specific question.
Well, that's it then.
Well, let me explain, Beatrice. We are already members. We are already in the U.S. section. We have formed a caucus in order to stand for the rights of people who have been historically denied participation in the U.S. section. I do know in some of the sections in Europe, some of the Africans who migrate to the UK, who migrate to Germany, who migrate to those countries are running into similar problems in the former colonial powers. So what we are asking and what we are fighting for, Beatrice, is recognition so that we can begin to build sections in the Americas region. Quite frankly, it is woefully inadequate that we have no section in Puerto Rico, we have no section in Jamaica, we have no sections in many of the countries in the Americas, which is your region. And so what we're asking is to be recognized as the Black Liberation Caucus so that we can help build sections in the Americas. That is our primary purpose. So what we're trying to figure out is, does the Wealth International Board have a problem with that? Us being an associate group.
Yeah, well, I cannot really speak for the entire board right now. I was for a while also working in Switzerland and I was not admitted in the Swiss section. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But I was thinking, since I'm just thinking loud here, since the groups don't have certain rights until they become a section, I was wondering if the BLC becomes an associate member until the doors are open to become a branch within the US section, if that could not be an option. Because the Constitution also says that there is only one group representing WILF in each country. And we should have to make a very aggressive work in order that the BLC can become also a member of the US section.
Well, this is what's going to happen. The current National Board of Will is going to be gone by 2024. Our rules say that if you have 2 years of membership, you can run for the national board. Internally, within the US section, we can handle what's going on with these people who are currently in power. Darian, the president, and several of the people who were elected in 2021, their terms will be up at the end of the UN decade in December of 2024. We will run people for all of those open seats. This year, George Friday will run for an open seat. Next year, because many of the new members we recruited will have 2 years in 2023, we will run people for all of the open seats. It's just a matter of time before the US National Board is changed and probably majority women of color. We are not concerned about the US section declaring whether we are legitimate or not, because once the board changes, the new board will recognize the Black Liberation Caucus. It's just a matter of time on that. So we don't need any help with that. What we're trying to do now in the region is start some other sections of wealth in countries that are largely a majority Black. And so that's what we need your support on inside of the International Board. We had a meeting with Sylvie on September 9th, and we explained it to her. I know she's a bit overwhelmed with all the new stuff that's coming at her. And she explained that to me. And so we're not in a hurry to do this. So we have time. What she explained is that tomorrow, the International Board meeting will be about the new advisory board. And then at the next meeting, it'll be about program issues. We have a lot going on. And so when we have our next meeting of the Black Liberation Caucus on October 30th, we may have more of an answer from Sylvie about how she sees herself presenting this to the International Board. But I'm glad you're here because you know that there's an anti-racism initiative at the international level, which I agreed to become a part of. And that initiative includes you, Melissa Torres, and Leila. So can you explain where that is? Has that
so far
come together?
So far we didn't restart with the process. We did some talking before the Congress, and that was it, but mainly with Leila. We didn't meet all together yet. So that should happen pretty soon now. We are now in the area of revising the code of conduct, and of course there is nothing there about Black or colored people, and I did mention sent comments in order to add these issues also. And concerning the sections in our region, I was working with Brazil on a section which was basically Black women also. And they have paused a little bit because they didn't find that WILF was really something which of their interest for the moment. But I'm insisting now, sending the new documents and insisting. Here in Costa Rica, we have a mixed section here on the coastal area. We are Black and Indigenous, basically, and in San Jose there are the white ladies, no? But everything is going well here, and we have to continue to work in that direction in other countries. Nicaragua, we try to work with Nicaragua, but because of political issues, they don't want to get involved, if not to get into trouble. And yeah, we are working on that too, so we can join forces there, Teresa. That's great.
Yeah, because the countries where many of us travel regularly are Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and some I know have traveled to Honduras.
I would love to have a Cuban section, but I'm wondering how the Secretariat will react to that, because sometimes we have also some political issues, no?
Well, I do know that. And so that's why we need the Black Liberation Caucus of the Americas to cut through some of the discriminatory issues that have been a part of the 107-year history of an overwhelmingly European descent organization.
Yeah.
So we just need you to stand strong as we work on this anti-racism transformation of the Women's International League.
No problem. That has been my commitment throughout my life, so I continue.
Well, we thank you for that. I see that we have someone named Akua who has joined us. Would you please introduce yourself, Akua, and say what city you're in and what organization you're with?
Hi.
Unmute yourself, Akua.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, my name is Akuya. Apologies for the outside noise. I'm driving right now. I am located in Chicago. I'm with the Black Alliance for Peace and the All African People's Revolutionary Party.
Well, we're happy to have you because the Black Liberation Caucus is kind of opening up. We are members of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, U.S. section. However, the U.S. section refuses to recognize us as part of the U.S. section. So what we are looking at, BLC members, is opening up our meetings to Black liberation fighters from other groups. So I'm proposing we consider that as we have our monthly meetings with the purpose of inviting women around the country to join as members of WILF, men and women, actually, Tongo. So we do invite you to membership in the organization because the organization in the U.S. section is not broke. And one of the benefits of being a branch in the U.S. section is that you can apply for many grants, and the many grants allow you to do projects in your branch area. So for instance, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, which is based in Columbus, Georgia. Please mute yourself if you're not talking, and I'm the only one talking right now. The Fannie Lou Hamer branch, which is based in Columbus, Georgia, we received $1,500 in a mini grant last year for our first annual Human Rights Conference. We will have our second annual Human Rights Conference on December 10th. So we will be applying for another mini grant on October 1st, which will be at least that much. But you can apply for a mini grant from anywhere from $300 to $2,500 because most of us raise money for Will. And in large part, we raise money for Will by signing up new members. And we have signed up quite a few new members as the Black Liberation Caucus. And so most of the members in the US section appreciate us and welcome us, but the current elected leadership is not with that. But it's just a matter of time, as I pointed out before. But that's my pitch to join Will, because it is the most important feminist peacemaking organization in the world, and by far the largest and the oldest in the world. And because now there's a threat that some of these state powers and leaders would actually use nuclear weapons. And we have to work for peace and work for an end to the threat of war, which is what getting AFRICOM out of Africa is all about. So join Will today. George, did you put the information in the chat?
I did. Our next item is Black Palestinian solidarity.
Well, that item is really kind of an announcement. But we held the Black Liberation Caucus organized a Palestine and Lebanon webinar, What is to be Done? And that happened on September 13th. And out of that discussion, Wolf has a section in Palestine and a section in Lebanon. So we connected with a section in Palestine to say we wanted to build Black Palestinian solidarity, which is something I've been working on since the 60s and the 1967 war, which displaced even more Palestinians and stole more land, the state of Israel. And so, George, the item, if you could put up the BOPA again, because what we want to do is reach agreement on changing our description from Free Palestine Solidarity to Black Palestinian Solidarity. So that is the proposal, which we like to give people a little time to think about it. So we will work on reaching consensus, hopefully at our October 30th meeting, when Shante McLaughlin is going to be facilitating the meeting. But that's why we wanted to put this on the agenda instead of just saying Free Palestine Solidarity. Since we're the Black Liberation Caucus, it will be Black Palestinian Solidarity. So that way we can involve BAP, we can involve the All African People's Revolutionary Party, who have consistently worked on Black Palestinian solidarity. I do know that about Bob Brown and others. And of course, Kwame Ture was the first person who introduced me when he was Stokely Carmichael and head of SNCC to the idea of the Palestinian struggle and why we should be in unity with the Palestinian struggle. So that's the announcement on the Black Palestinian question. So what are the other announcements, George, if you could help me go through that? Are you there, George?
Yes, just had to unmute myself. The other announcements are the September 27th Tuesday, there's a board meeting. You can see here on the screen. You email the secretary at wilfus.org and request information for the board meeting.
Well, George, let me just say a little bit more about that. The National Board of WILF, the same national board that refuses to recognize the BLC, has monthly, not monthly, but meets every other month on the last Tuesday of the month. The last meeting was in July, and the next meeting is Tuesday, September 27th. In order to attend the meeting, you must be a member of WILF. And if you email the secretary at wilfus.org, she will make sure that you receive the materials to participate in the meeting. If you're not a member, to our guests, please do not email the secretary because you will not be allowed in the meeting. You must be a member in good standing in order to attend the national board meetings of WILF US section. And George and I and all of us who are claiming membership, we are our members. So I've already emailed the secretary. George, have you emailed the secretary?
I have.
Who else has emailed the secretary already? Well, who else plans to email the secretary?
I would like to email the secretary. When is the date of the meeting?
Who is that asking?
This is Sheila from Philadelphia asking, when is the
Sheila,
meeting?
Sheila, as we've been saying for the last 5 minutes, the meeting is on Tuesday, September 27th. So you
Okay.
really should send that email today.
Okay, okay, great.
Donna Peel will be too.
Donna, you'll send your message in.
Yes,
Great.
yes, ma'am.
So anybody else who is still in the United States and still a member of WILF, please email secretary at wilfus.org. And the next announcement, the Black Liberation Caucus launched what we call a No to NATO 30-month plan to help branches throughout the country understand why NATO is not a good thing. And NATO is a recipe for endless war. And it has a lot of reasons why Putin does have a point when you keep adding countries to an alliance that's set up to basically fight with the former USSR. And when the former Soviet Union went away in 1991, NATO should have gone away. But instead, NATO keeps adding more and more countries. And NATO says that if you bother any one of us, then all of us will come after you. That is a recipe for endless war. So Russia, feeling isolated, decided that they would not tolerate Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, which is how this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict got started, with the threat of Ukraine joining NATO right on the Russian border. So that is a webinar that we're going to have on October 18th, which will be 11 a.m. Pacific time and 2 p.m. Eastern time. And after tomorrow, when the working group that's planning the webinar meets, we will post the link everywhere to the BAP membership list, because George will post it there, and George will be posting it out widely. So that will happen. So that's simply an announcement Anybody have any questions about the No to NATO webinar coming up October 18th?
I do, Teresa.
What?
Are there going to be any mentions of, and this is something I noticed they haven't been talking about, but what precipitated that also was the fact that the U.S. has several, I don't know if you can refer to them as companies, but bio tech or bioterror labs in the Ukraine, right there at the border, which is another reason Russia got up all in arms. So I don't know if any of that is being mentioned, but they have labs for biological warfare that the U.S. has sponsored.
Rita, we have 5 speakers from 5 different sections of WIL. The speakers will be from Canada, from Finland, from Germany, from Sweden, and from the US. And so all of these members of WIL will be speaking about the international movement, which is called No to NATO. So all of these countries where WILF exists, because WILF has a hard position on NATO, should not exist. So most people are blinded and think NATO is a great thing. Well, NATO is all of the colonial powers that once oppressed people of color worldwide. That's who NATO is. And so, yes, there will be a mention of quite a few topics, but if you're in the webinar, you could certainly ask that question. So we're encouraging people to be in the webinar. I know that the Ukraine-Russia conflict will be central to the conversation since Putin has said he will use nuclear weapons. Well, any country that has nuclear weapons could and might use them, which is why we want to eliminate nuclear weapons entirely. That's what WILF is calling for. So I'm glad you asked that. And for our guests and everyone, we do have a hard stop at 5:30. Our meetings are 90 minutes max. And so we're at the point where we have 6 minutes left. And what's final on the agenda, George? I believe it is the Metro Atlanta branch and being the facilitator for our next meeting. Did we lose Shante?
Yes, Shantae's not here.
Well, for now, we will, since she knew about it in advance, and Shante is actually on the BLC strategy team, which includes George, myself, Daryl Moak, and Lucy Murphy. Daryl and Lucy are from the DMV branch, and Shante, Metro Atlanta, me, Fannie Lou Hamer in Columbus, and George from the Southern Piedmont. So we make up the strategy team. So between the 5 of us, we will figure out who's going to facilitate the meeting, which is on October 30th. And like this meeting, Tongo and all of our guests, you'll be invited to that meeting as well. And we will ask you at every meeting until you do join WILF today. And so we really do want to encourage all of you to go to the website, wilfus.org. And in the upper right corner, there's a button where you can click on to join WILF. The dues are only $35 a year. So we really do encourage you to join. Are there any last words or questions from anyone before we say so long? Any questions from our guests? Well, George.
Donna Phil has her hand up.
I
Go ahead,
just wanted to say that Tongo just put in the chat that he just joined. So welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, Tongo, are you still with us?
Yep, I'm here.
What city are you in?
San Francisco.
Oh, great. Because there's a San Francisco branch, and interestingly enough, there's a Black man in the San Francisco branch. His name is Philip Cole, and he is on the National Board of Wealth, and he's taken a position with the rest of those folks on the national board. He was initially a part of the BLC, and he actually came up with an anti-racism transformation plank in our BOPA. So they do have regular meetings, and I will be sure to inform Philip Cole that he has a brother member. So that'll be great because they meet together with the East Bay branch because the branch is in a bit of decline because most of the members are aging out. And so part of what we've been doing is recruiting newer members who are younger than me. I'm 74. George is in her early 60s, but lots of members that we recruited are in their 30s and 40s and 20s. So we are transforming the organization by creating a new generation of members, because I'll be dead in a few years. And so I'm trying to last until 80. And I must say that Mary White, who is probably our senior member, I think she's about 80 or 81, and she was real quiet in the meeting today. But Mary, can you hear us? Because I would love to hear your voice, Mary White, in the Triangle branch. Are you still with us?
Yes, yes, I
Oh,
am.
great.
I'm 82, so
Oh,
yes,
my
I am in the city.
Well, and I tell you, she looks great. And so we're so glad. We have another member who's in Tucson, Arizona, who's also in her 80s. And she signed up for the meeting, but she didn't make it, Emily Ricketts. And so we're at 5:29. So thank you so much, Tongo, for joining. And we will see you on October 30th, which is the last Sunday in October. We always meet at the same time, 4 p.m. So mark your calendar.
Okay, right on.
Yay.
See you next month. And
Bye.
George, be sure to save the chat as well as the recording, and be sure to send it to everybody who was here. Well, you can send the whole recording to the BAP membership list. We don't really have anything to hide.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.